Hello everyone, and welcome to Sadurdays, episode 13. For this particular episode, I have printed out a bunch of stories, as it were. I printed out a total of 6, figuring, they might be too short to reach at least, 15-20 minutes, so we'll see. If, however, I get through the first 3 and it's, the 20-minute or so mark, then the last 3 will be for next week. Without further ado, let's get going. Our first story tonight is how to cook pasta. And this story comes to us from Reedsy Prompts. You'll see the source in the description below, as always with these things. I don't believe in plagiarism. How to cook pasta for contest number 94 in response to write a story about 2 people who need each other but are too stubborn to admit it. By Carolyn Greaser. Content warning: suicidal thoughts. Good to know. Though nothing new for my particular channel, it's good to have that there just so you can either skip past this or completely move off the video before things get too sensitive for you. I'll give you 5 seconds. Okay. She waits with a watchful eye, staring at the pasta. It doesn't boil. Pacing back and forth across the empty kitchen with useless pots and pans still in the creaky cupboard. She adds another pinch of salt to the pasta. It still doesn't boil. She thinks about putting a bit of music while she waits. But the downstairs neighbors hate when she does that, and she can't remember where she last left her headphones. They might be in her coat pocket, or they might not. Perhaps she left them on top of the back bed in the room with the leftover textbooks, or maybe she didn't. Maybe she left them hanging off the tiny coat rack right next to her keys. Wherever she left them, it's too much work to run and find them, especially when the pot might boil soon. As soon as it boils, she'll put the pasta in. As soon as it boils. The tiny apartment is only temporary. And the only burner fizzles on her. She coaxes it, fights it, begs it to make a bigger flame, but it does not, settling proudly for the dull little spark that it is. Blowing on the flame coaxes the campfire. She wonders if it'll help the stove. Probably not. She watches the blue flame dance and stares right through it. Her phone lights up and she has a notification. Another message she's not going to read. Why bother when she knows exactly what it'll say? Still, she checks the name. She reads the first 2 letters and flips the phone over, wincing as it lands a bit too hard on the counter. Fortunately, it's not cracked. Unfortunately, that part of the counter is still covered in uncooked bacon grease from his disaster yesterday, and now her phone is too. The television buzzes a commercial from the living area, or whatever passes as such. She cranes her neck to check the ad, but it is not selling anything good. Just some sort of medical plan for old people. The kind she couldn't afford even if she chopped off both arms and sold them. When she left home, she swore up and down she was never going to be the kind of person who left the TV on. She wasn't going to eat in front of it, didn't even need a good model, really. Just something to occasionally watch old cartoons and maybe a new show if she wanted to. Now the TV is always on, always buzzing, always saying something just a little too quiet to hear. The pot on the stove is still not boiling. She thinks she remembered to top the water off with cold water, but maybe she didn't. She wonders if throwing a tablespoon or 2 now will change anything. Probably not. Her greasy phone buzzes again. She flips it over, checks the name, and turns it back down. He's not going to write her. She knows that. Still, she checks just in case. Banana bread would probably be a smart thing to make. If they're going to have that conversation they need to have, banana bread has to bake for a minimum of 45 minutes, plus the time it takes for the oven to heat up. Longer than it should with the awful rattling noise. Anytime she requests a temperature above 250 degrees. And then there's the cooling time to consider too. Pasta would do. Pasta would work, if only the water would boil, if only. He'll be home soon. Tiny bubbles began to come up from the bottom of the pot. But not big enough, not hot enough. She waits, fidgeting with the coarse tips of her hair. When he comes home, she's going to break their little routine and meet him in the living room. She'll meet him in the living room and look into his eyes and wait for him to break first. He will. She'll make him. She glances half-heartedly at the little plant on the windowsill while she waits. One of them picked up the plant. Where or when she doesn't know, but one of them did, and it's always been there. It's a tiny succulent with little round leaves, the kind that doesn't need too much water. And it's perfect for a household where two people forget basic things. Last week they forgot to buy toilet paper, and the group chat blew up with their friends lecturing them both on the ethics of self-care. If it was a college course, they would have failed it long ago. The tiny bubbles are a bit bigger now, and she adds a little dollop of olive oil to keep the pasta from sticking. It falls into the pot in one big drop, then separates as the bubbles break it into one spot, then two, then four, and then more. She watches the oil dance and fight itself, making clouds and sheep and spots, and wonders if she could get away with adding the pasta to the water early. Actually, she's not sure if there's any consequences of doing so. It's pasta. She can't possibly mess it up. If she does, she sure as heck doesn't deserve to be amused by video clips of Hell's Kitchen, which still pop up on her YouTube feed every now and then. She doesn't add the pasta, not yet. There's no rolling boil, and the phantom hands of someone bigger grip her impatient toddler ones. It's not time yet, the phantom whispers, and she nods. She knows. Footsteps sound in the hallway, and she perks up, but she knows it's not him. Not yet. Those footsteps are too patterned, too heavy, too broken with intermittent pants. He walks like he plays basketball, dances his feet across the court even when he's tired. There's still a light bounce in his step as though he waits for a ball. The world will never throw him a ball. Still, he bounces and waits in the kitchen for the water to boil. The pull-out couch in the living room is thrown in when they end up in the apartment together. Stuck somewhere with nowhere else to go. He had a couch and she had some money, and together they make do. The couch is lumpy and old, only a single step from the kind of couches people leave forlorn on the side of the road, but at least it's clean. She vacuumed it earlier when she waited for him to come home. Usually they barter over whose turn it is to do chores. Sometimes things make sense. He's the better cook. She hates stealing in the kitchen. He would rather die than clean a toilet, as long as it's decent enough. She doesn't think it's so bad. It's just a toilet. The porcelain bowl is still relatively clean, and neither of them spend enough time in the apartment for it to be stained, for it to get dirty. She scrubs it like she scrubs everything else, fleetingly jumping from one to the next. While she daydreams of being in a relationship, daydreams of owning a house, scrubbing the toilet makes her nostalgic, and sometimes she wonders if the decisions that led her here were the right ones. The water finally comes to a boil that satisfies. She estimates with her fingers, then shakes the quarter box of leftover pasta into the pot. It'll do, and if he's still hungry, there's baby carrots in the mini fridge. Having a bigger fridge would be pointless. He only cooks once or twice a week. The other days, they thrive on lifting meals off friends and fighting over which day deserves which kind of takeout. The key sounds in the front door, and only years of practice stop her from startling. He pushes open the door soundlessly, and she wonders when he stopped tapping beats on the doorknob. Are you cooking? He asks. Two backpacks bounce between his arms. Oh, just sit down. He sits at the table they own under the other hanging plant that's definitely her fault. His fingers remain still, and she has to chew a gritty piece between her teeth. His fingers remain still, and he glances at the TV every now and then. She pulls out one of the 5 mismatched forks and tests the pasta. It's still not done. It's too firm, too hard, and she has to chew the gritty piece between her teeth. She catches him looking at her, and shakes her head before he even opens his mouth. She is cooking tonight. He is sitting down and doing nothing except for talking. Finally, the pasta finishes, and 4 pieces come out clean and al dente. She dumps the whole pot into the strainer and waits for the water to drain. It makes a horribly loud noise as it echoes into the sink pipes, and they both wince and imagine the fear imagine the face of their grumpy neighbor. She scoops it onto 2 plates and brings over the Parmesan cheese, some more olive oil, and dumps everything on the crooked table in front of him. I could have made sauce. We don't have any tomatoes, canned or otherwise, and you used the last of the pesto last week. Ah, yeah. She sits next to him and grabs her plate. He watches slightly amused as she dumps half of the container of cheese onto the noodles. It's better with sauce, but alas, they sit for a moment in silence, except for the horrible buzz of the TV in the background, and she wonders when words got so hard to say. So? I read the thing you told me to read. Yeah, what did you think? It was pretty good. The one character sucked, though. She chewed her pasta thoughtfully. Well, he was going through a lot of stuff. Doesn't give anyone an excuse to be an asshole. True. Silence would be awkward if it were not so well known. They sit and they eat, and the television plays the same episodes over and over. The pasta's gone, she knows she has to ask. Still she hesitates over yet another thought. I know a good therapist if you want to give it a shot. He looks up abruptly and his eyebrows furrow all the way up in concern. That's not horribly expensive. Insurance would cover most of it. She has his attention, that's for sure. She has his attention, yet she cannot even look at his face. He continues to stare. His left eye twitches at alarming speeds. I've been going for about a year now. It's not perfect, but it helps. What did you find? He blurts out. I've taken the liberty of booking an appointment next week on Wednesday after your last class. You're going even if I have to drag you. What did you find? Finally, she dares to look at him. His hands clench around the table and under it. His knee bounces onto cheap, crooked plastic. She draws in a breath. Your note, clearly you didn't go through, but well, you still have it. I can't imagine that's a mistake. He curses once, twice, several more times, and brings his hands up to wrap around his head and clench at his hair. On the stove, the pot water cools down. She should put it in the dishwasher before she forgets. That was just one bad day, he says, gritted teeth meeting the protest. I know what bad days are. It's never just one. Why do I live with you? Remind me. You didn't have anywhere else to go. He waits. His hands clench a little less awfully, but they still linger in his hair as he stares. We're friends now, I think, whether you like it or not. Definitely not normal friends, but something along those lines. I'd hate to have have to go roommate searching all over again. He laughs but holds something strangled inside. Oh, heaven forbid you having to try to replace me, she would chuckle. But she knows what he needs to hear. Look at me. He doesn't comply. Look at me. He finally lifts his head, and she could see the way his eyes puff up and his nose twitches once, twice. As much as I joke about it, I do care about you. If you've got nothing else holding you back, let me do it. He still doesn't cry. She knows he won't. He should, but he's been told not to by the ghost of society, and so he doesn't cry. She reaches forward around the table and almost hugs him. They sit in the kitchen for a while, sit in the almost hug, and watch the world outside the apartment get darker. The pot on the stove cools and she forgets about it. Pasta leaving her mind. A dog barks in the street and something heavy sounding falls over in the upstairs neighbor's apartment. The lights flutter and the world goes on. She goes upstairs later to take a shower and realizes he's cleaned the toilet. And that was How to Cook Pasta. Final thoughts? Good. You know, I liked the use of imagery and abstractness about it. It was almost like I was reading one of my own poems right there, in a way, but in story form. I might consider applying some of the ways that she goes about describing things as a literary device if I get back into bookmaking someday. But, apart from that, I don't have much I would really improve about it. I mean, most of what I printed out for the show were winners of contests that had to do with writing, and honestly, I can kind of see how this short passage would have, gotten people interested and got voted as well as it did, for what it's worth. That being said, I suppose we have about enough time for a couple more stories, and then the next three I'll save for the next episode then. Our next one is called Autumn Rain by Yolanda Wu. Submitted for contest number 91. Response to set your story in a library after hours. Trigger warning, talk of self-harm and suicide. Alright, here we go. Have you ever had this feeling like you're in a helium balloon with your string cut, a rotting piece of wood adrift in the vast ocean? Does saying it like that make me sound too pretentious, thinking I'm some sort of literary youth? Of course I'm not. I'm just sad. Sad people tend to be under the impression that they've been possessed by Li Bai and suddenly know the gruesome secrets of the universe through a few lines of poetry. Second year of university, my life is great. All the sad things from the past have been thrown in the back of my mind, so my life isn't sad. I'm sitting in the library after hours because it's raining outside and the librarian feels sorry for me. Lin Yu, my name. In Chinese it is written like... well, you'd have to look at it. I can't really describe it very well for you. The first character of my surname, it means woods. The second character means rain. I don't know whether my parents did this intentionally, but if you add the 3 dots in the first character, it means getting rained on. The pronunciation is the same. Also bear in mind as a commentary, this is Chinese that I'm trying to read here, and I've never had a course on it whatsoever. My brother's name is Lin Q, written like... the second character means autumn. Our names put together are Autumn Rain. Quite poetic, isn't it? But it makes me wonder why my parents couldn't have just had one son named Lin Q rather than fracturing the name over 2 children. Because what happens when one is left with the other? Autumn Rain paints an image of people walking with colorful umbrellas across a scenery of red, orange, and yellow leaves. Rain on its own is only gray. The library was my brother's favorite place. The librarian also let him stay after hours. It was because she liked him in a way of a favored son, not because she pitied him. Well, maybe she did when she learned that he had to give up dancing to take care of her mom. Stage 3 ovarian cancer. Why didn't our dad take care of her? Why didn't I? Why him? Dad didn't think that work was more important than Mom. He wasn't that kind of person. It's just that someone needed to be working for the money. I didn't think that ballet was more important than Mom. I'm not that kind of person. It was just someone needed to be worthy of dreaming. My brother, Gigi, as I called him, had gripped me by the shoulders in the hallway of the hospital. Never give up on dancing, Xiao Yu. That was a nickname that meant Little Rain. Please, you'll start dancing again when Mama gets better, won't you? I said. His face darkened and held my hand. Come, it's time to go home. I understand now that he didn't think Mom was going to get better, that he could have started dancing again, that there were more roads to dancing than professional. But I pushed for that dream, our dream, until I lay each night with an aching body, but still dragged myself out of bed at 4 a.m. until the studio's practice room became my almost home, and the smell of sweat and huffs of exertion were perfume to my skin and music to my ears. The rain beats louder on the glass. I look up at the highest shelf. I used to be able to put my leg up there, bend my limbs in ways that would make you think they were made of rubber. Do you even have bones? People used to ask me. If I do that now, I might pull a muscle and not be able to walk for a week. My ballet teacher used to say, you don't practice for a day and your body can feel it. You don't practice for 2 days and you can feel it. You don't practice for 3 days and everyone else can feel it. My 3 days have piled up into months by now. My brother was always gentle. I was always getting hurt. It's alright, just squeeze my hand, it'll be over in a few seconds. Eyes were already blurry with tears in the throat, raw with swallowed screams. I could bear injuries. One time I danced an entire concert with a fractured ankle, but for some reason the moment my brother appeared before me, my cheeks gave way to rivers. The doctor snapped my knee back into place and I cried into my brother's chest for 15 minutes. It's okay, it's good to cry it out when we go home. Gigi will make you something delicious. I miss the sweet and sour ribs that Gigi made. I find that I've been thinking in Chinese more nowadays, probably because I miss him, probably miss how him and Mom used to yammer at each other in Shanghainese. He spoke to me in Shanghainese on occasions. I understand it, but I never learned how to speak it. But that's not what I'm sad about. I pick up a book and try to read, but the lighting's too dim and the words are just a blur of black. You, the librarian says, the rain has stopped. Thanks, I say, picking up my bag. Maybe she sees some tears in my eyes, or maybe I just look sad. Are you okay, she asks. I smile. I'm good, I reply. Thanks for asking. The pavement has been washed clean. Are you okay? Can that question really change things? Is saving a life truly one question away? If so, I should not have assumed that my brother would be fine after Mom was cancer-free. That under the long sleeves in summer was smooth skin, that in his heart there wasn't an invisible darkness. Perhaps his name even foretold it. Add a heart in under the character for autumn, Q. It becomes Chu, to worry. When worry builds, its weight is crushing, even when worry isn't needed anymore. All Gigi had done was worry. Worry about Mom, about her possible relapse, worry about Dad, the stress of work, worry about me. Gigi was the one who cared for me the most. Tang on its own means hurt, pain, but if you add me and it becomes to be looked after, cared for. In Tang, the first character is heart, the second character is hurt. It means to care about a person, feel that twinge in the heart when they are in pain. I care so much that my heart hurts for you. My heart hurts for him, but he's gone. I stopped dancing because that dream had shattered. It can't be our dream anymore because he's gone. Dead. Left the world. Now with the comfort of being held. But with his final breath entrusted in a blade about to cause the most irreversible of damages. A cut can heal, a deeper cut can scar, but there's a point where deep becomes too deep. No amount of stitches and bandages can piece back together. No amount of are you okays and I love yous can fix anything now. You are not alone. I'm here for you. You are loved more than you will ever know. Gigi, just let me care for you. It starts raining again and I stand there being rained on. I close my eyes and listen to it. I think of autumn with its red, orange, and yellow. My body moves with the rain as my music. My muscles are stiff, but my limbs remember the 13 years of aches and sweat massed to move in a way that makes my body into art. My heart hurts because I hurt, and I dance because I love. Arms batting the rain, reaching out for an umbrella, a warm body, someone to hold me in the rain. You say you are the older brother and I'm the younger brother, so you will block me from the wind and shield me from the rain. You say that you are the older brother and I'm the younger brother, so I too will block you from the wind and shield you from the rain. Because when I dance, I don't dance about autumn. I don't dance about the rain. I dance about autumn rain. And that was Autumn Rain. Final thoughts? Very, very good. I mean, there was so much symbolism in it. I couldn't possibly think of how to improve upon such a work at all. Like, anything from just, explaining how different characters in a language I don't even know relate to certain words and can turn things around like that. That was a very clever thing to do. And honestly, I don't know how I would do something like that with, like, the English language per se. At least not in the same profound way that, one could just change a few things about, a word, like a few dots or whatnot. English just doesn't work that way. So, yeah, this was definitely quite the heart-wrenching story for sure. With that, as time is running short, looks like I'm only going to get to do 3 of these today. So for our third and final one, I have for you a story called A Strong Exhale. Okay, and here it goes. Hugo. Day 1, the hottest day in July. The kind of hot that makes the neighbors forgo underwear and plant themselves in front of the oscillating fans, feet planted in the small kiddie pools filled with tepid tap water, topped off with the bagged ice from the corner market. The breeze from the fan casting across ice pools does nothing to diminish the warmth of their radiating bodies. Instead, it pushes the sweat further across their faces and thighs until they are all shiny with sweat. It's nearly impossible to forget day 1. You try, yet day 1 is the day you'll scramble for breath. You'll put on the bravest of faces to give your daughter the oxygen as you hold the side of her head to your chest. She'll appreciate the firm pressure you apply to her quivering body, the grief inundating from her youthful frame, forcing you back 1, 2, 3 steps till you both collapse on the couch. Sweat and tears, they're all the same. How can a girl live without her mother? How will I breathe without her molding what a strong exhale looks like? It will be all she can say. You wonder, in your emotional greed, where does she keep all of the passwords? Thea's birth certificate, is she allergic to anything? Rianne. Their day 1 is the polar opposite of your day 1. The body that carried you through the life of the past 4 decades decided the narrative of living a nice long life is a lie. To find that you're going to die is far less painful than hearing that you're dead. The dead don't hear pain. The dead don't feel it either. It's terminal. You have weeks at best, Rianne. I'm so sorry. You're sent home with the instructions of getting your affairs in order. Pamphlets titled How to Tell Your Loved Ones That You Are Dying. As if there's a simple bullet point plan to button up all of your affairs before you go. Step 1, I'm dying, but I have a few lasagnas in the freezer for busy nights. You go. Planning a funeral is foreboding. The weatherman says to expect more heat hazes. You don't know exactly what that is, but you already spent hours on the internet searching for a cure. What's another few minutes? Heat haze, also called heat shimmer, refers to the inferior mirage observed when viewing objects through a mass of heated air. Relief floods your body as panic eases up. This isn't the end. It's all a mirage. It has to be. Rianne. Everything after the first day is now called the in-between, and that's just how you know you've come to accept it. Call your mother more, but not so much that she suspects that there's something to be worried about. Mothers know. Revel in the fact that the word hug happens to be the first 3 letters of your husband's name, as he is the best hugger you've ever met. Hugging him a little longer feels like a possible cure for the incurable. Forget the pamphlets. Your family deserves a better send-off than that. The blogs online say to leave a video diary for your daughter because she might forget the way the dimples tucked into your cheeks are deep enough to hold a cat's eye marble in each of them. Don't let her forget. The idea of the camera taping your face not looking like your face is unsettling. It is then you decide on cassettes. They're the happy medium. Even if the cassette tapes are so out of style, they might even be more treasured due to the rarity of them. Nothing screams a mother's legacy like the antiquated methods of communication. Might as well break out the typewriter and a ribbon of ink. You go. In-laws, they're a mixed bag. Naturally, they have known your beloved Rianne for the longest. They created her, so there's ownership there. Let them visit and call and video chat. It's all they will get of her. You'll be left with the daughter you share, the smell of her lilac shampoo on the bed linens you agreed to buy at the big box store. The in-laws won't get to smell her again, but you will. At least a little longer before the next load goes into the wash. Rianne. To make a mixtape, you need to consider two things. Who are you making the tape for and the occasion? Remind yourself this isn't a John Hughes movie, and Thea won't be walking away with the love of her life, but rather losing you. Of course, there are times when you hear a little melody on the radio and you think to yourself, Thea would love this song, then add bits of wisdom and sayings to the playlist for the days when she needs advice, but you aren't there to give it. Mother knows exactly what kind of music will make her daughter's eyes sparkle, even if it is followed by a tiny eye roll. It is some kind of magic to possess the kind of knowing about a teenager, even if she is your child. You wonder if anyone else will ever know your daughter this way. Hugo. She told you that there'd be tapes, that you'd have to give them to Thea. Maybe one morning as you sip your coffee black and dark roasted the way you like it. It's important, Hugo. It's all I have to give her. All I have left to give her. Well, and you, of course. Those dimples, you won't be able to say no to her, and so you agree with a gentle head nod, a deep hug. Through sickness and health was the vow. How about death and grief? What's the vow look like after that? More haziness, Rianne. Your last day comes 29 days after your first. Cliché, that's what the 30 days will be. Like a film reel, memories click and spin for one last viewing in your mind's eye. Not in black and white, but in vibrant colors of finger-painted construction paper and alabaster hydrangeas in wedding centerpieces. Wait until Tia nods off in the corner chair of your room, wrapped in the blanket you both sewn together out of your old shirts. Absorb the tiny bit of warmth from Hugo's hand wrapped around the frail fingers on yours. These hands spent many hours laced together over the years, and now his hands will spend hours pressing play for Thea. It's time for your strong exhale, Hugo. Pull that old cassette player down from the attic, blow off decades of dust. Imagine the look in your daughter's face when the carefully curated tapes are placed into her young hands, with 3 freckles alongside the edge of her knuckles. The freckles lightly kiss her milky skin, and you breathe out a little in relief, knowing they will look ordinary. She won't want the tapes. Her eyes might brim with orbs of salted water. A sense of begging will slip past her lips. Please, Daddy, I'm not ready yet. You stare at the dimples she inherited from her mother, pressing your warm thumb into one of them as you gently hold her to her chin. Picturing the future, you wonder who will take her wedding dress shopping, and who will take her phone calls if she loses a baby. It'll be you, of course. Press play. And that was a strong exhale. Final thoughts? Absolutely astounding imagery. I mean, I've written some pretty tragic, stories of how someone loses a loved one, but I've never quite written it in such a way that I thought too much about the technology used. What am I going to leave for them as a recording? What's it like from the perspective of the person actually going through it? Beyond just, oh shoot, I'm dying. Now what? So, hats off if I was even wearing one to you. And this has been Sadurdays, episode 13. I thank you for watching and tuning in, and all source links are in the description below, as well as social media and my Scribe shop. With that, I hope that some of these stories had moved you and helped you feel again. Otherwise, until next time, bye-bye!